1st, 2020, 10:06 on the clock, and you have your host, James J. Malouf here. In part two, we'll be joined by Wood County Health Department, get an update from them. Right now, though, we are joined by Doug Machon, Wood County Board Chairman. And Doug, good morning to you.
Good morning, James. This is different, huh?
Yeah, it's a little different like this. We got Doug joining us on the phone, of course. Hope we're all kind of just trying to show support to the idea of, keeping this distancing thing in check and doing what we can to support that. And Doug, for those that don't know, Doug, of course, has been a long-time friend of the station here and old friends with Carl and that. And the last show we were going to do was really going to be Doug's last show. It was kind of be our swan song, our chance to kind of send Doug off into the sunset and all these different things. And we were just going to have a fun reminiscing show with everything going on. Of course, Doug was nice enough to focus that show last Wednesday on more, things that were of the moment. Right now, I would just like to be able to kind of spend some time with you, Doug, and kind of do a little bit of walking down memory lane with you and talk about your career and talk about some of the things that you're proud of. First up, though, I just want to ask how you and yours are doing.
Good. We're doing great. My wife and I are hunkered down here in the house. We're taking this pretty serious. Am I okay on a speakerphone like this, James?
So far, so good. Yeah, so far, as far as I can tell, and as far as I'm picking up here on the radar, yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So we've been hunkered down here, and yesterday I had the honor of speaking one-on-one with the governor. His staff had reached out to me on Friday and asked me if I would be willing to talk to him yesterday morning at 10 o'clock, the same time we're talking now. And of course, I was thrilled to do that. And I'm sitting in my what my wife calls the man room. It's a den that we have. And one time when I was up north hunting, she completely renovated it and made it a total man space where all my fish mounts and deer heads and fishing rods and all the art that I love so much. So it's just me and the cat in here this morning. And the cat got to sit in with the governor yesterday, too, and nice. The governor said hi to the cat, so that was very thrilling for the cat as well.
With of course, as you mentioned there, you and your wife and the cat bundled up together and everything, staying indoors. I should have asked how she's doing, how your wife is doing, really. That's what the person that I should have asked, how's she hanging in there?
She's doing very well. She takes very good care of me. She's probably a bit more worried than I am. Probably 3 weeks ago, she really stocked up the house with supplies, and she had the option of not going to work. She works in Stevens Point, and she had the option of not going to work, so she's been staying home. And about the only time we do go out is every other day we try to do a walk, probably about a 3.5 mile walk where we go through the city, and that's about the only time we're out of the house these days, unless we have to make an emergency trip to the store or something like that.
Well, as you and I talked about last week, it's important. It's tough, but it's important we do this now so that hopefully we can get on the other end of this, and in a couple months or what have you, we're able to get back out and about and live our daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the questions the governor had for me, and he was really very serious and interested. He asked me if I thought the residents of Wood County were taking the stay-at-home, stay-in-place order seriously, and I certainly hope that everyone is. We're trying to set an example here.
Well, what did you say to him?
I said I really didn't know how to answer the question because when I look around and I see the traffic, and a while ago I drove by Walmart and it looks like business as usual. But then there are other people that are very serious about it. I know my parents haven't been out of the house. I have an uncle that's staying in his house as well, and they're in that very vulnerable demographic. So, and I have a son who's a investigator, law enforcement guy, and he's taken it very seriously as well. In fact, they went to an emergency schedule in their department so they can keep people off and sequestered at home for 10 days at a time.
Well, unfortunately, for anybody out there that isn't taking it serious, you're going to end up having to. You're going to be forced to take it serious one way or another. And I'm not at all trying to be mean or dark there. I'm being real. I'm being honest. This is one of those things. The virus doesn't care if you believe in it or not.
Yeah.
The virus doesn't care if you think that you're being over-exaggerating or if society's being over-exaggerating or something like that. The virus don't give a darn. It is one of those things where if you don't take it seriously, it will take you seriously eventually. But we're doing it again, Doug. We're getting caught up in all this, and I wanted to reminisce with you. I wanted to talk about, for those that don't know, Doug. First, let's start off with how your career started and how long you've been in doing things like this, like being a Wood County Board chairman and that sort of thing.
I was elected to the county board in 2012. I was still a working man then. I think I was 58 years old. I think at the time I was the third youngest member of the board. And I drew up a list because I really wanted to say thanks to a lot of people that have helped me over those 8 years, and in particular the last 2 years as chairman. And I can start with this guy. One of the guys that was instrumental in getting me on the board, helping me find my way and finding out about what it was about, was an old supervisor named Gary Alwarden, and he's since passed. But Gary was very helpful. Helped me lay the groundwork for running, told me what I needed to do, what it was like. I went to some board meetings and decided that I was going to dip my toe in the water, so to speak, and the rest is history. Another really critical person at that time who was very, very, very helpful, and I can't thank her enough, and that was Cindy Seabrist. I mean, she was the county clerk at the time, and she didn't know me from Adam, and when I went in there to get papers, she probably looked at me like I was from the moon. And lo and behold, I got on the county board and became the chairman. And I had the pleasure of working with Cindy in her last few months as the county clerk. And in fact, she had when she gave her speech when she left, she mentioned that she had the privilege of working with, I believe, 4 or 5 different county board chairmen. And I was one of those, and I was very proud to be in that group of having worked with her. So if you're listening out there, Cindy, thanks. I appreciated everything she did. But along those same lines, when I came on the board, I was appointed to the Lance Plimmel was the board chairman at the time, and he appointed me to the UW Commission at Marshfield, which was the campus authority. We basically controlled all the infrastructure and the buildings and the grounds at the UW campus up there, still do. And so I got to meet some very, very great people up there. Pat Stewart was the dean at the time that I went up there. A gracious lady, had great Christmas parties. Wonderful woman to work with. And then Keith Montgomery replaced her as the dean at the Marshfield campus. And Keith Montgomery still works at UWSP. He's no longer dean over there because of the consolidation of the campuses. But Keith and I remain good friends. In fact, we still have lunch about once a month if we can. Sometimes we're busier, but we get together on a regular basis. Keith has become a good friend, will be a lifelong friend for me. Also at the commission, Brian Panzer, which was the head of their maintenance group up there, and Michelle Bornke, which was their financial officer at the time. And they were instrumental because I became the chairman of that commission, and I was the chairman of that commission when we built the new STEM building up there, which was probably maybe the highlight of my life. That was quite an endeavor. Got to work with some really excellent people putting that together. Along with the campus people, I got to work with 2 very impressive people from Myron Construction, David Voss and Sherry Wall, and they were the project managers and the engineer on that STEM building, and that was a project. That was basically a 2-year project of going through the bidding process, the planning process with the architects, and then the actual construction and doing the budget and redoing the budget depending on where we came in on bids. That was quite a mission, and I believe Sherry Wall is actually the project manager at the Y project in Rapids right now, and good for her. We still stay in touch. Very good group at Myron. Very talented people. Very dedicated to their mission. They do a great job.
Getting to meet a handful of them over when I got to tour the Y, and every guy I met working over there just couldn't have been better at what they're doing, and the work that they're doing over there is pretty impressive. Great people.
And then another commission or another group that I got appointed to was the ADRC, Aging Disability Resource Center of Central Wisconsin, and I also went on to become the chairman of that board, and really great people. Joanne Leonard was the chairman of that group when I came on, and I knew right away that she was a very extraordinary person. She was a great chairman, and her, and along with a lady named Colleen Bates, who wasn't on the chairman, but I had met at WCA, and Colleen Bates is a former chairman of Eau Claire County, and she also chaired a human services study with the WCA. And when I saw those two ladies chair their committees, I knew that when I became a chairman, I wanted to model myself after them. They really knew how to run a meeting. They were very democratic. They let everyone speak, but yet they were able to share their opinions and kind of drive the bus a little bit. And I really admired those two women. Joanne Leonard and Colleen Bates had a big impact on the way I did business and the way I approached chairmanships when I became a chairman. So, my hat's off to them as well. Linda Weitz was our executive director up at the ADRC at the time, and she was a fantastic executive director. And we replaced her since then with Linda retired, and we replaced her with Jonette Arms, which we hired out of Milwaukee. And Jonette as well has really changed the way business at the ADRC and done a great job as well. I've had the pleasure of working with some outstanding people on the outside of the county. Drew Gibbons and Mark Mauersberger with the Wood County Solar Project and Savion have been fantastic to work with. Jim Webster out at the casino with the Ho Chunk Nation. I can't say enough about Jim Webster. Jim Webster has really got it together when it comes to economic development. He works with Adam Estes out there as well, and those guys really get it, and they are fantastic partners for Wood County, and I've really enjoyed working with them. At the Encourage Foundation, Heather McKellips was an outstanding person to work with, Gus Mancuso as well. I've got great memories of meetings with those two and discussions that we had regarding the community and what direction we were moving, what direction they could help us move.
I've got some interesting memories with Gus Mancuso as well, more of a principal-student kind of thing. But
I bet you do. Actually, Gus and I have a little history outside of government. Gus's son, Gus had sons that played baseball as well as I did.
Oh, yeah.
My oldest son played baseball with Gus's youngest son, Vinny, and then my younger boy, Brian, played Legion ball up in Rapids. We lived in Nakusa, but Brian came up and played Legion ball in Rapids, and he played with John's, I believe, oldest son, who happens to, I think he's a cop over in La Crosse now, and so is my son. It's amazing how many of those kids from that Legion team became law enforcement guys or firefighters.
Interesting.
It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I've got to meet some really nice citizens as well, and two in particular, Lonnie Selge and Rick Humphreys, have been outstanding advocates for the disenfranchised in our community. I mean, Lonnie's real big with the clubhouse, River City's clubhouse, and the neighborhood table, and Rick is an advocate for everyone, anybody, disabilities, no income, low income, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, anything. Rick is willing to advocate for anyone and everyone, and Lonnie as well, and they're a great team when they work together, and I've really enjoyed my time being with them. Ben News and Bobby Damrow at Midstate have been incredible. We worked with them a lot on the solar projects, and then the media has been really fun to work with for me. I mean, Carl Hilke, of course. What can I say about Carl? I mean, we know what Carl did and who he was, and yourself. I've really enjoyed. We've gotten to have establish a relationship as well, and it's been. I'm going to miss that.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Cannon up in Marshfield. So those are important relationships for me to have, because there's not many avenues to get the message out and to be able to speak, and so that was important.
It goes both ways, Doug. It really does. We appreciate working with you, and I would never speak for anybody else, but whether it's Jeff or Carl, I know talking with Carl off air plenty of times about you. You're a fun guy to work with as well, and it was somebody who cares. And really, when it comes to that, it seems simple, but it's not something that is very obvious with everybody, or it comes through everybody that comes through our doors. And you were always one of those guys that we knew, okay, whatever we're going to talk about, it's something that's going to be important, insightful, and it's something something that Doug will be passionate about. And I don't want to cut you off if you had more thank yous to get to.
I do. I'm going to go to. I'm probably not going to get to everybody I had listed here, but I'd really like to speak about my core group for a minute because I don't want to. I certainly don't want to shortchange those. And anyone that's been in government or in a position of leadership knows that you have to surround a core group that you can trust, that you know understands you, and understands your ideas and your vision. And I think your vision is important. And I was very fortunate to have a really strong core group that I know that without these people, we would not have accomplished anything in the 2 years that I was the chairman. And that really begins with my wife, my wife Jennifer. And those of you that know me know her and know how important she is to my thinking and the way I do things. Every single idea that I had was bounced off Jen first. And, her opinion was always considered very heavily. And then beyond that, I had a core group of staff in the courthouse that were just incredibly talented, gifted. They knew what I was thinking. They understood where I wanted to go. And I could have sent them anywhere to speak for me on any day, and I would not have to have said a word to them. They would know exactly what to say for me and knew where I was coming from at all times. And those four people were Jason Gruenberg, who on economic development, that's where we worked the hardest, Nancy Turek in extension, and again, she was all over the place, solar, economic development. She was kind of like a jack of all trades, but she could do it all. Kim McGrath, our HR director, I worked daily on things with her, and then Peter Kastenholz, our corp counsel, who, I bounced so much stuff off of Peter, he probably got sick of seeing me, but incredibly gifted people. They were a great sounding board. And then probably two other people that were just almost in that group at times were probably Chad Schooley, who was an incredibly gifted and bright guy in the Parks Department, who was really, really helpful and did a lot with the solar project in the parks and the ATV trails as well. He was incredibly, has good vision, knows where we're going. And then Amy Kopp as well, our IT director. I bounced a lot of stuff off Amy as well. She's really got the heart of an administrator, I believe, but she's stuck with IT for the time being. And then you have Fritz Schubert that works there in the Parks Department as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't, in these times especially, call out Steve Cruiser at Emergency Government and his staff, Sarah Christensen and Mark Stickney. What a fantastic they've done through the storm last summer and also right now. And then finally, the people that I've met in government that I've had the pleasure, the politicians that I've had the pleasure to work with. I mean, I'm just going to name them. Gordy Earle was up on the commission. He was a longtime councilman in Point. Bob McManus, the mayor in Marshfield, fantastic guy. I get along great with him. Still have lunch with him once in a while. Still always will. Two supervisors on the county board that I can't thank enough. Always, without fail, had my back. And believe me, anybody that's been in politics, you need these guys. But these guys I will remember forever always had my back, and that is Ken Curry and Bill Lightnum. Curry especially. Curry and I go back. We sat next to each other. I've never done anything, made any decision without bouncing it off Ken Curry. But those two guys always had my Bob Ashbeck is a supervisor I got to know really well as chairman. Great guy. Jay Kahn's an up-and-comer. Jay Kahn's going to be the chairman of the county board someday. Young guy, smart kid. He's got some annealing to do, but he'll get there. Dave LaFontaine, a guy that I definitely underrated as a supervisor. Great guy, very thoughtful. Donna Rosar. I mean, I don't know what I can say about Donna Rosar. Where we are as a team is just so gratifying to me. The work that we've accomplished and done together, my hat's off to Donna. I'll remember it forever. Those were great things. And then, of course, Lance Plimmel. And I can't say enough about Lance and his wife, Julie. They have been extraordinarily great to me as chairman and my wife. Lance always let me do my thing. Don't forget, Lance had 12 years there. He knew what was going on, and he always let me do it my way. Never tried to steer me one way or direction. Never tried to throw a wrench into the works. Always let me do it my way, and I'll never forget him for that. I'm very appreciative. That is so gracious and I'm not sure I could be like that, but he was. And I'll tell you what, that's a class act. That's a class act. Sheriff Sean Becker, what can I say? Good, another guy. He's doing the right things. A good guy to work with. Always very helpful. Great guy to have for sheriff. Joe Zerflu, another supervisor that I did a lot of work for or work with. And then finally, the last group here I have is some staff people that really helped me out a lot when they didn't have to. And I know they're hard, but Kelly Quino, Sandy Green, and Sue Pataki at Parks Department, when we did the ATV things and solar things, they did a lot of work behind the scenes. Victoria Wilson and Kim in planning and zoning. Lisa Downs in the Corp Council. I mean, she had to get sick of seeing me come in there. And then finally, two big hitters right now during the coronavirus is Sue Comferman, our health officer, and Brandon Ruwink, who have done outstanding work as well. And I'm sure you'll be talking to Sue shortly or one of her people, and they do a fantastic job.
Okay. Doug, I don't have a lot of time for questions, but I do want to ask you at least one thing. You know, as you leave office, as you leave the chairmanship, what is something that you're proud of, or what are some things that you're proud of that you were able to accomplish? And we've got about 2 minutes left, just to let you know.
Well, I think the big thing is always going to be the solar project at Nepco Lake. Hopefully that gets us in. That has gotten us to a place where we take that kind of technology seriously and we use it to our advantage, both fiscally and for health, all the different reasons, health reasons, resiliency. There's so many good options there that I think if I'm remembered for one thing, that's probably the one thing I would choose. Also, the other big thing, I think, there's been a lot of small things that we did that nobody realizes that hopefully somewhere down the line people will say, oh, wow, I remember when that happened. That was a good thing. But I think our direction turn on economic development and how the county is going to do and focus on economic development is going to be huge. I really wish I could be around for that, but I will certainly keep a close eye on it and see how it develops.
And in the last minute here, Doug, what is something that you would tell people that are looking to become a chairman or looking into getting into politics?
Run. Run as fast as you can. You know what? There's been good. I told you this, James. There's good days and there's bad days. The best part about being a county board chairman is the people I've met. And the worst part about being a county board chairman is the people I've met.
I appreciate the transparency, the honesty, and just the conversation with you as always, Doug. I hope you and yours take care. Don't be a stranger. We'll talk again real soon. And thank you for everything you've done.
Hey, thank you, James. It's been my pleasure. Take care.
You take care, too, Doug. Again, a great conversation, and we look forward to hearing again from our good friend, Doug Machon, Wood County Board Chairman. We, of course, will keep things moving. We got the Wood County Health Department coming in with an update from them coming up right here in Part 2 of Morning Magazine. This is AM 1320. You're listening to WFHR.